So we developed a system to regreen very degraded area. You can see the nature of the soil is quite bad. And we developed a system to regenerate wastelands for forestry purposes, and now we are doing a small project to reclaim wastelands for agricultural production, for food production. And now it is very difficult to give you an impression of how it could have been. There is still one patch there. When I came here in 94, this place was very much like that spot. It was barren, and these acacias were there, the neem tree was there, but it was open land, it was grazed, and people came to collect whatever they collect. We made some kind of a fence, and then we introduced pioneer vegetation. In the meantime, the pioneer vegetation has disappeared also. Here there is still, no, I will look for a better example so that I can find it. Anyway, I'll show them later. What we did actually, we started planting some Australian acacias, which is a pioneer vegetation. This Australian acacia, you can just take the seeds and broadcast them. And we also used some local species, which did not always work very well. One is this Cassia auriculata. In other places, this virali has grown quite well, and this place not. And we grow these acacias, which I will show you later on. And then the acacias, once they had grown, we just cut them all up into pieces and use it as a mulch for the other trees, around the other trees. So this tree is here, like this Vengai, is 6 years old maximum 6 years old Vengai. And this is rosewood. This tree is also maximum, I can't say when exactly I have planted them, but it was 95. From 95 onwards, I did a little bit in 94, but mainly fencing and other things, and in 95, so that will be 6 years old. This is rosewood. We planted a lot of teak, rosewood, Vengai, and Achamaran, this Hartwikia binata, I don't know, in this area, Maradu, you know, Kali Maradu, we have planted a lot of this timberwood, mainly for timberwood. And we introduced also some fodder grasses. This is, of course, now in the dry season, Stylosanthe samata. This is a leguminous fodder grass, which we have also just broadcast the seeds. And I have pictures of that also, as you can see. Can still show you places where there is nothing also, if you want to. Some of these bigger trees had been planted and watered by the previous occupants. The problem that we are facing is the farmers have been cut off on their resources. Previously, say before the advent of the colonial period, and they had very high yields. That is, maybe you have from this book, you have read, what is it called again? I don't remember. But they had very high yields. All this has been noted down. Even in the 18th century, some British agronomists have recorded yields in Chengalpet districts which were at very high, much higher than what we have today, even with all the modern so-called improvements. So at that time, when the farmers had access to their resources, their yields were, and their production was very good. Now, coming to today, when our yields have fallen back quite a lot, in spite of all the green revolution technologies and whatnot, they are still very low. It is because we are following a wrong system of farming. We are not respecting our environment. We are cultivating, the cultivation that we do is based on a Western model, in a temperate system. We cultivate as farmers would cultivate in a temperate system, but we are doing that in a tropical system. And in a tropical system, conditions are very different from in a temperate system. So I want to maybe highlight a few of these principles of a tropical system. One of the differences in a tropical system is, or one of the major features is that there are different layers. of vegetation. You have vegetation close to the ground, you have vegetation in the middle part, you have up and up, you have different tiers of vegetation. That's one. Another major feature of the tropical system is you have a lot of diversity. In one particular area, say in 1 acre or in 1 hectare in a rainforest, you will find 100 different tree species. You will find shrubs, climbers and all. So a lot of species will be pell-mell growing together. And that will make that the soil will not be visible. It will be covered. In the temperate system, you will have very few species. For instance, if you go to the tundra or to the Canadian pine forests, you will find 1 or 2, 3 species of pines, but they will be in vast areas. There will be sort of monocultures, you know. The grasses also you have. The more you go towards the north, the less diversity. But there's also in the fishing in the seas. In the northern seas, you will find schools of sardines and herrings and other fishes in vast quantities. So fishing is very easy there. When you come to the tropics, you don't find these masses of fish. There will be plenty of fish, but they will be all different. And so if you fish, only 5% will have economical value. And all the rest, 95% of the fishes which are caught in industrial fishing have to be thrown back in the sea dead, wasted. That is because there is a high diversity in the tropics. But a major feature in the tropic is there's no winter. And so all the seasons are always present. You can have a farmer cutting rice and one planting rice, or one sowing rice. One rice will be flowering, another one will be ripening. All the seasons are always present. You can have new leaves, flowers, fruits, anything is possible in the tropics. Although there is a pronounced dry season or there are pronounced rainy seasons, but still you could say that apart from this wider distinctions, the seasons are always present. And therefore, since we have no winter, and in the temperate zones they have a winter, for the winter you have to store. The fertility will be stored in the soil. In the tropics, the fertility is not stored in the soil. The fertility is stored in the vegetation. So, for instance, if you cut a rainforest and you want to do agriculture, it will fail because there is nothing in the soil. The highest forest, the most dense vegetation grows on the poorest soil in the world. You cut these forests and you can't do agriculture, or in 2-3 years the organic matter is used up, it's leached out because high temperatures and humidity, and erosion starts, gullies come, it's a desert. So from green jungle to red desert, it takes about 5-6 years and it's finished. So this illustrates a little bit, I don't know if you can show it, this illustrates a little bit the different types that we have on a limited scale, and the diversity in vegetation. Of course, nowadays we have very few edible plants. No, we have not paid much attention on it. Even the kire is not growing very well, or the pineapples. But before we used to have gourds, these pineapples, all kinds of vegetables, but not now. And also flowers. And as you can see, all these things, the vegetation, I would say the fertility is not in the soil. And I can show you that very clearly, if you can see. There, here. I can show you that the fertility is not in the soil. You see, because here we have no soil. All this vegetation is grown without any soil. It is always recycled. It is just there on the concrete. There is no soil. See, it is fully grown, but there is no soil.
You see the coconut.
Yeah. You can try for yourself. It's not because I know the spots. You think I may know the spots. You can try.
People don't believe in us.
You can try yourself.
Then we give them the clover and say, okay, you do it.
Most of these trees, like the guava and all, drumstick, they have suffered in the cyclone. When the cyclone came, everything fell over, so we had to straighten it. But the papaya tree, it's very simple. The technology is very simple. What we eat is carbohydrate, right? The fruits are a carbohydrate, and so it is carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, which are atmospheric elements. and that we eat. And in the papaya fruit, what we do not eat is the skin and the seeds. And in the skin and the seeds we find the substances that come from the soil, which are basically metals and stones. Metals, zinc, copper, iron, they are metals. And stones, that is calcium, phosphorus, they are stones. So this metal and stones is used by the tree to hold the pulp, which is carbohydrate, together, otherwise it will fall out. And so to encase the life force of the seed. But since we are not eating the skin and we are not eating the seeds, we are not eating the soil. So we just put back the seeds and the skin in the root zone of this papaya tree, and we can continue to harvest papayas. And if the papaya tree becomes too high, we cut it off, a new papaya will come, and it will recycle the whole tree, all the biomass will be recycled, and we get new papayas, and we don't have to add anything. Once we have a papaya tree, we always have papaya trees. Of course, no system is foolproof. We have to add once in a while a little bit of ash, which is the soil, and so we put a little bit of ash finish. But here in this case we don't add anything. We haven't added nothing, because we have the trees and the leaves fall from the trees, and that's enough to maintain this. We just put water, we have to keep it moist. That's it. This is just a garden which is now, come this side. It is 1 month old. This garden is 1 month old. That's no magic. You can go under it. There's nothing under it. The slab is there, but it's not only full of roots. It's only 1 month old. That is kirei. That is another kirei. That is mint. Peppermint.
Crush it and see.
Crush it and find out. This you know, basala, no? This is chili. These are ornamentals.
And one
Amaranth.
sita tree also has come here, no?
Yeah, one sita
On its own.
on its own. This is a wheat, nice one. I like it. These are ornamentals, ferns, and crotons. We'll have
The radish will it'll start coming like this. It won't be very big, but it will be a little bit okay. But you can still grow.
what did we grow in, no?
Ginger.
Ginger.
Yeah, it's still there, but we are not able to. Don't have time now to maintain it. But we got nice ginger.
Yeah.
Ginger, radish.
From the trees, you can see we haven't kept it moist.
Actually, I stopped watering it because
Yeah.
of the roots.
Yeah, but you can see all the white roots will come here. These are the white roots, not very visible no, on the camera. Are there no other place with white roots?
Of course you can see.
That's I damaged them all. That's
Or
a
you
pity.
open another
But
side,
if the here you can see. You can see the leaves are not fully decomposed. Not fully decomposed. That's the time when there is the best possible development of roots. It's not in fully decomposed material. It's in, I would say, 3/4 decomposed material. And you can still see the structure of the leaf. It has become black. Inside it will be black. This will be the best for root development for plants. In this material, everything can grow. There is nothing which will not grow because you can see it on the roots. It's ideal food for plants. No such thing, or there is not enough organic matter, you know. People say we have no organic matter, but you don't need so much. This is peppermint. This is chili. This is a nice chili also in the pot. This type of chili I have planted in there.
No, there is one pineapple hiding.
Yes.
That's all?
And this turmeric is not visible anymore.
Ginger is not visible anymore.
Most of the plants have been, there are some medicinal plants also, but they have all. Here. Which one is that, DP?
It's the type of pepper.
This one?
Type of pepper for throat.
It's a medicinal plant. What is the name of it? You don't remember?
There is also a Tamil name, but I don't know.
Get moist for a few days, put a seed, and your garden is ready.
Oh.
Okay. Voila. Just keep it moist. Put the pot with some water. Keep it moist for some time until it turns black, and then put it on seed. It will start growing. You don't need more. It's just this soil, and that is the. You can see the roots there. See the white roots. We just all these leaves. We just put them here and keep them moist. And then there's some seeds. I don't know how they came. Just maybe leftover seeds. We normally wanted to plant, but now we have no time. That's all what you need to do. And things will grow. See, this whole garden has been based on this system. There is nothing miraculous. This is all. We just take these leaves and put them in lines. There is some grass and leaves. We mix a little bit of soil. We bought some soil from the tank silt and we mix a little bit. That's all. And we sprinkle water. We keep it moist. It has all turned into soil. It all has turned into soil already. The roots. Yeah, it smells quite good. You can't feel the smell, eh? That's a problem. But it smells quite good. The area of the funnel is about 4 square meters, and we harvested 25 kilo of soraka. And the last few fruits we kept for seeds. So we estimate that we got about 30 kilo of fruits from say 4 square meters, which is close to 10 kg per square meter. And it's only beginning, no? I think by next year we can double this amount. We had it in there were 2 bundles. We measured the weight, and both, one is a bilobal one and one is a club shaped one. Both have given about the same amount, 25, 23, 25. The other bundle is slightly smaller, but it comes to 8 to 10 kg per square meter. I came into contact with the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, and because of the mother in the Sri Aurobindo ashram, I came to India. That was my main reason to come here. And because maybe it's in my blood, I don't know, I started farming in 78, a little bit before, but actually full scale I started in 78. Full scale involvement in agriculture in 78. Before I did some work in other projects in Oroville. Already in Europe there was a lot of resistance against all this pseudo-scientific green revolution technologies, which are just a means to get more money, basically for those who produce the inputs, like fertilizer, pesticides. All these products had to be introduced by the so-called third world countries from the first world, and it was an opening to send out experts, to send out all these materials, even things that they couldn't use so well anymore in their country, and in the Western countries they could still, pretend to make some technologies and send it to the other countries. That's basically a continuation of the exploitation of the third world in economical terms. There is a lot of reaction in the West also. In the West, we consider that also as quite a bit, at least in the circles where I was moving. I'm not saying maybe in the official circles of agriculture universities or agriculture scientists, or some of them would hail something as the Green Revolution, but for quite a lot of scientists would have been a lot of reservations against this also. I know, because in rice, when I came, I used to speak with a friend of mine as an interpreter, because at that time my Tamil was not so good, and I found out that there was basically very few pests in rice. They could name 3 pests which were from time to time giving them problems. But today there is any number. I have forgotten how many, I'm out of touch with it, how many major pests there are in rice. In the cashew cultivation, which used to be fully free of pests, there are now 63 insects known to attack the cashew tree. It was not there before. And we have seen, I don't know in which years, in the 80 years when there was drought, many of the fields were empty. There was no rice throughout the whole year, except in the fields where people still had Kartiga Samba or other traditional varieties, which somehow, even in difficult conditions, could grow and give a yield. And you could see in the middle of nothing, all of a sudden you would see a field with a local variety, and a little bit there would be nothing, and again you would see the farmers who had somehow still kept to their own seeds. You could make it out in the plain a little bit further down here. You know, nothing, rice, then nothing. And it was all the local varieties were able to grow when the rains failed. That I have seen. And in the beginning, when I first grew rice in 78, everybody said you should grow AR20. I said, okay, let's grow AR20, but we found no value in this. And the next year we were growing the Skichili Samba and Jiraga Samba. There's two, and we found that with our organic ways of cultivating, we got very good response, and we got a rice that you can eat, which is edible. While the other rice, I mean, it's edible, but it's not eatable, or it's eatable and not edible. I don't know. You know, you can eat it, but it's about it. The rain will come; it will become moist. So the leaves here, the termites will bring some earth. The termites will bring the earthworms will bring some casting. On top of the leaf, the dust will fall. Some burrowing or scratching animal will come, and it will be covered with a little bit of soil. Right? Then the next year, again, the leaves will fall from the tree on top of this one. Yeah. And again, I don't have much soil here. There is no soil here, so there's a problem. But here you can see, termites. Yeah. The termites will put some soil. The rain will come, it will be moist. The shredding animals, which are here living, all the shredding animals, they will come and they will start processing this thing, and then the next year again the leaf will come, the flowers will fall to the ground, and then again the termites and the earthworms and the burrowing animals and the scratchers and the shredders, the shred animal, a little bit soil, and then the process continues like this over the time, and after some time you get a virgin forest soil. And we know that the forests have the most fertile soil anywhere you can find. So to make a fertile soil, you just have to imitate these processes. And the way in which you keep your leaves moist, that you can sprinkle water on it, you put a terracotta pot in it, inside it, or you put a plastic over it, you keep it moist. You keep all the residues, all the biomass that you can find, scratch it together, and anywhere or another, keep it moist. Right? When it is moist, you can add a little bit of cow dung, because in the forest also there will be some animals coming, and a little bit of bird droppings in the form of chicken money, but little. In comparison to this, not even 1%, you know. In comparison to the biomass, very little. That means if you have water, you mix a little bit of cow dung in the water, little bits, so that it goes into the leaves. Or you make a cow dung slurry, you spread it there, and then mix it inside, finished, enough. And you produce your soil. And with all the materials that you collect in one day, you can make soil that will take nature 100 years to make, or 1,000 years. And in that soil, if you keep it moist, the earthworms will be attracted. And if they are not there, you take some earthworms, Lapitomology or whatever earthworms, and you put them there. Periodontous excavators, all these earthworms that we have, you just put them in, finish. And you put your seed. If you are a farmer, you have cows, use a little bit of cow urine. The cow urine will get the minerals or the nitrogen that you need to start, and it is there. If you are close to the sea, you can take small quantities of seawater, very small quantities, because in the seawater you have also all the minerals that you need. Mix it with water and apply it with a little bit of cow dung inside, and you start growing your things, and you grow gardens. You grow food anywhere, in any place. Now, which seeds you will take? You will take the seeds which are locally available. you use the materials which are locally available. That is a local, I would say, a neighborhood resource management. You use the resources which are available within walking distance, or at the most within the distance of the bullock cart. If you have to take it from further out, you have already to be a little bit more careful. And this is the only way in which we can economically produce our food. Economically, the rest doesn't cost anything because the plants absorb their food from the atmosphere and the energy comes from the sun. All this is free. No company has yet patented the sunlight or the atmosphere. Maybe that we'll be doing in the future also. And so we can grow. There is no constraints, especially in the tropics. There are no constraints. The only constraints we have for the time being is the seed, because our seeds have been destroyed. We don't have seeds anymore. We are obliged to purchase seeds from companies. All the seeds are inferior and cannot be used in our farming system. The seeds that are available in the market are hybrid seeds. They have been bred for uniformity, for dwarfing, to make them small, and for decrease in yield, so that people buy more. It is wrong to believe that hybrid seeds yield more. You should put that out of your head. That is not true. This is scientifically not true, because the heterosis, the hybrid vigor, like in capsicum, is only 8%. It's only 8%. By natural selection, by observation and working on the plants, you can have an increment of much more, of double that more. In maize, it is very low. In all these crops, the hybrid seeds are low yielding, but they lend themselves to mechanical planting and harvesting. So, like in tomatoes, all the fruits will all be determined varieties. They will be small, and the tomatoes will come, and you can harvest them in one go. So while in our tomatoes or fruits, you will have to harvest now 1 and 2, and tomorrow 1 and 2, and you will harvest for a month or two. You can harvest tomatoes, and they will be indeterminate. They will grow tall and can spread. But we had even this year several occasions in which we have 90, 100 and more tomatoes on one plant. While in certain companies sell tomatoes, they will give only 1 kilo per plant. They will say you can harvest 20 tons of tomatoes per acre or per hectare. I forgot. Per acre most probably. And for that you need to plant 20,000 seedlings. And for this you need so much seeds, right? All is there in their package. But if you know that one tomato seeds weighs this much, then you can know for 20,000 seeds how much should be the weight, and then you can see from the company sells you 3 times or 4 times the amount of seeds that you need. That means either the seeds are not viable, or they just cheat the farmer, and you make too much seedlings. And these plants, they will say, you have to plant 20,000 plants in 1 acre. That means one plant will give 1 kilo. That's all. But we have farmers who have gotten 500 tomatoes from one plant. I don't know how much would be the weight from one tomato. You can just take one tomato and weigh it and see how much. It will come to 15 kilo of tomatoes on one plant. Plant will take, of course, 1.5 or sometimes even 2 square meters. But that much of tomatoes can be produced without headache, with local resources, without any special inputs. And these tomatoes, they will be, you will have something to eat. They will have taste, and they will have Shakti. They will have force in them. They will be full of vitamins, and they will have regenerative powers. They will be having natural antioxidants in them. They will have a lot of regenerative power. While the vegetables that we buy in the market, they are already oxidized before we eat them. If you cut the potato already, the process of oxidation has started. And the radish, you keep radish from the market, after 2 days they are black. And they are fully oxidized. And we have to eat this food. While our tomatoes, we can keep them in environmental conditions for 1, 2 or 3 months, and they will not rot. They will stay there. I can even show you some tomatoes which are 1 month old, not in the fridge. I'm talking on standing on the side of the table, and they're still as fresh as we were harvested. And then gradually over the time they will lose their moisture and they will dry out, and you will have a dry tomato. That's what it should be. Studies have proven that in intensive cultivation of oranges, the oranges actually did not contain any vitamin C whatsoever. There was no vitamin C in the orange whatsoever. And the same person who conducted the study quote in his book case of an inquiry in hospitals where 50% of the patients in the hospital were in America were suffering from malnutrition, unbalanced nutrition. They just didn't have the essential building stones in the body. Although they were taking vitamin pills and they were doing, they eating, the richest diet in the world, and they were there. Their ailments were caused only by malnutrition. That is 50% of the patients. That's quite a huge number. Of course, these studies would have to be done on a larger scale, but we know that it's like that in Europe. I have seen that when we were boys, there were no dentists coming to the school. That was just not done. All the children had teeth. But now, every school has a dentist, because you have children of 7 years old which have false teeth and have lost their teeth. That even in the primary school, there are dentists. And this is all, can all be related to vitamin deficiencies, mineral deficiencies. Not only in India, they make a huge cry of mineral deficiency in India, but in the West it's not any better. But you eat some leaves from the drumstick and or kovakai and you have your vitamin E. They must not make such a drama of the vitamin deficiency. If it is like that, it is because they have removed the habit, just the habit that the women had of cultivating some diversity of food. This is the major impact, this total destruction, this total degeneration that the Green Revolution have brought on the creative principle. And the farmers have succumbed to that, and the farmers are now all illiterate. Nobody knows anything. We have gotten here. I have done about 64 programs with farmers, and we have heard everything. All kinds of stories that spiders eat rice plants, or you have to spray against the spiders because they will destroy the rice, or that the earthworms do this, they will eat the seeds. All these things which are baseless. And the insects, the farmers have lost. They have no more idea which one is good and which one is bad. There are so many, you can't make out which one is the good one, which one is the bad one. So as soon as they see an insect, they spray. Whether it is good or bad, there are too many to know. So the situation has become very drastic, and the yields are very low. You should not fall into the trap by believing that the Green Revolution has increased the yield. They haven't. They have increased the yields, yes. If you compare in the history from after the independence, when India became independent around the 50s and the 60s, our yields were very low. But there were certain reasons why they were very low. Before that, they were not low. Right? And if we have, or if the Green Revolution has doubled or tripled the yields, they are still much less. They are still much less of what it used to be before. I have done inquiries in the village myself here, and farmers used to harvest up to 3 tons of rice per acre some 50, 60 years ago. We calculated, we had interviewed villages, and they had to admit, they told us frankly that it was like this. But at that time, very interestingly enough, it was not because the variety was high yielding that the farmers would grow it. They have other parameters. They had so many parameters. High yield was only one parameter, but there were so many other parameters that they had which were valued, which today nobody values. It must be high yield, whether it is good or suits or what for, that does not matter. It must be the highest yield. It can be the biggest rubbish as long as it gives the highest yield. That is all. We have only one criteria left. So we have degraded a lot.
So you have gone through the book, Agricultural Testament, no?
Yeah.
So you can
The book. Yes, people can read it.
no, how you can.
You can show in a graph. You have read this, no? PPST group, you know. They have given this agriculture at the turn of the century or 18th century with these things. You can make into a graph and film it. So what were the yields in the 1800 and in the beginning of the 19th century? Or no, in 1700. 1700. And you make a graph. It was in Chingalpet. They have recorded yields from 10 to 11 tons per hectare. And you go to Chingalpet now and ask what is the yield per hectare. It will be 6 to 7 in the best cases. And so you show it on a graph with different colors, and you can show it in the film. And in Dharmapuri district, No, in Ramnathapuram district also there have been some investigations done, and I find that the yields today are the same than 100 years ago. They're the same. They have not improved.
But a lot of inputs now.
But the inputs have increased by more than 1000%.
So because of
So you can show the inputs, the increase in inputs, and then you can show in a graph, and you can quote from this studies which are in the PPST bulletin has published, and the organic farming source book has some information on this. So this, if you visualize, it can be a useful thing.